The torpedo that sunk the Cheonan and took the lives of 46 South Korean sailors was fired by a North Korean submarine.
Another night of chaos and unrest as anger over police killings spread to every corner of the country, penetrating the heart of political power in Washington, D.C. Security agents used tear gas to push protesters away from the White House. New York's iconic streets were littered with the debris of rage over the death of George Floyd, but also giving vent to years of festering frustration with police mistreatment of African Americans.
Tonight, bloodshed on the streets of Kazakhstan as protests take a deadly turn.
Russia overnight launched its long-anticipated attack on Ukraine, striking military posts across the country.
Полздания.
Welcome back to Crazy Talk. This is Mike.
This is Ed.
And for the time being, we're going to be running just audio alone. You can still get us on YouTube, as you're probably listening to it on YouTube right now. But if you want to help us grow, please go to tacticalpenguin.com. Tacticalpenguin.com has been supporting us since day one. We're just on Riverdale Road behind the Harbor Freight. So come on down to Tactical Penguin, tacticalpenguin.com online. Please put your email address in there, and we will notify you every week, all through the week, of all the deals and stuff that's going on in the tactical world. Remember, tacticalpenguin.com. Okay. You were talking about the MCX just now.
Yeah, so I've been looking for that for the past couple months. Probably a little over a year and a half.
I think I was doing the same thing about 2 years ago, right before COVID. Yeah. And
those pre-COVID prices.
Yeah, and it's like a guy that I know was talking about what I have in my collection, and I kind of broke my own rules. One of the topics we talked about maybe about like 2 or 3 months ago when we were recording back then, we were talking about the calibers and the guns and all that stuff that you should have, and I completely failed my own list.
Oh.
And I always say that, you should have an AK or an AR-15. That's number one. You should always have an AK or an AR-15. You should have a Glock 19 or a SIG 320. We'll talk about why I picked those two here in a second. Pretty much, you should have a combat rifle. You should have a basic carry pistol. You should have a 22, semi-auto 22 of some sort, and then you should have a long-range gun,
a bolt gun,
like a bolt gun.
I mean, some of the stuff that I have a couple of ARs,
Yeah.
a couple of AKs, and the ones that I have, you know, the ARs 5.56, the AKs I have are 5.45, and I was thinking about picking up a Galil because it does take AK mags. It is chambered in 5.45. Hebrew hammer.
Yeah.
You know, you can't go wrong with the Hebrew hammer.
I found myself looking, then everything that I had was under 10.5 inches. Every single thing. I built a 300 blackout that was 7 inches. I have a 10. My go-to land and liberty gun is a 10.5 5.56 that's got everything on it from a suppressor. I think I've even displayed it on the podcast a few months, probably almost a year ago. Yeah. And I have a couple of toys, you know, a couple of cool toy guns, but I don't have anything that kind of fit everything, you know.
Well, it goes back to the conversation we had before off the podcast about, you know, the way you said it about me was like you have unicorn guns.
Yeah.
I have the AK-74.
You don't go by any list. You're just. I mean, I made you get that arrow precision. Your 16-inch, and I was like,
and I was just like, okay, I got that.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like you go after the unicorn gun. Okay, I have a 5.45 AK, 2 of them. It's not a very common round.
No.
You know, and when I went in, I already told you, I went all in.
Yeah.
You know, I bought like several spam cans.
And that's one of the things that I was like, you know, when we're talking about these guns that we're doing right now, the things that we should have in our collection, you know, have a gun that is for 0 to 50 meters, so to speak, which is basically all your 9mm carbines, your PCCs, your MP5s, your
that's two of those.
Your Strybogs and your Scorpions and your what's the other one? The Vector, you know, the Chris Vector.
God, I want that.
You know, like that's your 0 to 50, okay? And then you need your 200-yard gun, which is your 5.56, your 7.62 by 39. Yes, they can go further.
Yeah, but you're pushing it.
But you need that, you just basic combat rifle, because in the event of something where you're going that far, you don't want a 200, 300-yard gun that could go to 500. You don't want that gun. You want the gun that is 500-yard gun for 500.
Yeah.
It's like trying to use a fork to butter bread, you know? It can, but it's going to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, that's kind of what I was looking at, like the R700 that I have. I was thinking about changing up the chassis to the Magpul, but it's proprietary magazines.
yeah, but I think with the rules that I wrote a couple years ago, I say with the magazines and the ammo, okay, and the guns that you get, you should have 12 mags. I think you should always have 12 magazines. Magazines are consumable items, and if people don't know, consumable items are things that you use up and you throw away. And as painful it is to see somebody throw something away,
$30 magazine.
yeah, or a $10 magazine from Magpul or whatever.
But then you look at that, like my MP5s, same magazine. My AK-74, same magazine. The Chris Vector that I would like to get, 45. I have a Glock 21,
Yeah.
45 caliber. So that is one thing that I'm really dead set on, is if it can use the same magazines that I have, great.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's great. And this kind of the guns that you have in your collection, the mandatory guns in your collection, all goes into what calibers you should always have a high stock round count of ammo, which goes into what do you train with your family, which goes into what guns your family knows to grab when shit hits the fan, which goes to what calibers are for like everything kind of goes together. And when you watch other YouTubers or other YouTube videos, not everybody's got their shit together. And with COVID, it kind of proved that we are so dysfunctional.
We're pretty stupid when it comes to that. I mean,
Nobody's organized.
No, nobody's organized. But it's also like, in my family, they're all familiar with the AR-15. They all know the AK. I cannot hand a family member, take my MP5, because you can't just shove a magazine into it.
Right.
Because if it's a topped off 30-round magazine,
you're gonna have some problems.
The top round is gonna be smashing up against that bolt, so you have to rack the bolt back and lock the rear lock position, then shove the magazine in there. Then You can do the HK slap every once in a while, but after a while, you tend to shear that little piece of sheet metal that's holding it down. So for once in a while, not so bad. All the time, yeah. But that's one of those weapons that it's that if you train with it enough, you know what it is. How many people do you know that have an MP5?
I know 2 people that have MP5s, and everybody is. Most of the time, the people that have MP5s, it's either I have a PTR or I have an HK. And the HK guys, 9 times out of 10, have no clue what they have. They just saw it, used their credit card, bought it. They have a ton of different things in their collection that they saw. They just bought. They have
a
no
collection piece.
Yeah,
yeah. That's why, like mine, it's a clone. It's a PTR. For the price of one HK, I bought 2 PTRs.
Right.
I have the K model, and then I have the standard.
And I kind of, in my opinion, looking at the HKs and looking at the PTRs and looking at all the different other, I've seen the Century guns come out, which are just MKEs. The Century guns are essentially just a Zenith, but without Zenith's name on it. Zenith is the USA company that imported the MKE. MKE is a Turkish manufacturer who had the permission from HK to manufacture and do it for them back in the day, and now they're just doing it under their own contract. So MKE is now licensed to distribute to Century, and Century's licensed to distribute in the United States. That's what you're getting. My problem is anything that has Century Arms name on it, I kind of lost faith in Century.
Was it the cast trunnions?
Just everything. Just in my opinion, just recently I bought a Draco, and M&M from in I think Colorado, they're importing Dracos now too.
M+M?
Yeah, they're importing Dracos now from Romania, from the same Kujir factory. They're doing it, and I had the choice to go from one or the other, and I was like, if I can get away from Century, I'm getting away from Century. There's those little tidbits. In my opinion, we got to kind of stand or die on a hill. And Century is one of the ones where it's like, I saw a guy today on Instagram, and he's like, well, I'm going to test all these different AKs that are USA made. And the first gun he had was a Century, and it was like a M70 receiver with Romanian front. It was weird. Like,
It sounds weird.
Yeah, it's like an AB2 M70 receiver with the huge, RPK trunnion.
Oh, the bulge trunnion.
Yeah, the very big
receiver. Yeah.
The big popularized pre-ban.
I mean, that's one thing I want to get.
M70, AB1, AB2.
Yeah. Going off topic, I mean, if I could find a parts kit for RPK and 545,
yeah.
I already have the full size 16. I have the crank.
Yeah.
Now to get that RPK set.
That kind of, every time I look at different guns that I want, I have a problem where it's like, do I want this, or like, where do I need this at? And then I lose the fun of guns. It's like
You overprocess it.
Yeah, because to me, guns is a fun thing to do, but the fun in me is making them have a spot.
A purpose.
Yeah, like that's the fun where I'm at with firearms. And I know, like, I have a Ruger Charger, a 1022 Charger, and it's in a chassis, and it's got a suppressor on it, has a AR-15 handguard, and I like made that as like a fun toy because it's so quiet, it's so easy. There's mags everywhere. If you get CCI standard, it sounds great. If you get quiet subsonic 22s, also sounds amazing.
Yeah, but another thing that we kind of realized after this whole Rona thing was you can have all the guns that you can have in your house, ammo out the ass, all that. What do you do if someone gets within like 2 feet of you?
Right.
Do you know how to, do you grapple? Do you do jiu-jitsu? That's one thing, and I gotta bug you more on it to get into it. I know you gotta get him into it.
I want to get the kid into it. I need to get into it. And the funny thing is I promote jiu-jitsu so much, especially with what I've seen in public, seen on TV, seen online in live videos.
I mean, I had my own experience on the Vegas Strip, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah, It's, in my opinion, I was just watching a podcast with Rogan, and a guy went to jail, and he was pretty much innocent. And
that goes back to that topic of what I told you. There was a guy who was talking to a bunch of fighters to never try to get yourself caught in a situation where you have to fight in public. You know, and he goes on and says, a buddy of mine got into a fight, hit the guy in the chin, guy went out, hit his head on the planter or a fire hydrant, dead.
died. Yeah.
Now you're going to jail for murder.
There was a guy that was in Hawaii that he was I don't know if he was Kenpo or if he was Taekwondo, but there's a lot of that martial arts out in Hawaii. And right when I got there, 2007, 2008-ish, they were at a Chili's. And some dude just was walking by, and he was like an older guy, and he started like, "Hey man, you need to do this, you need to do that," just like throwing his hands up and stuff. And the young kid was like protecting his girlfriend, and the guy was kind of coming towards him, and he just, out of instinct, just one just kick to the side of the head. The guy fell down on the ground, cracked his head open, and he died instantly.
Yeah, that's the thing, is just like your situational awareness, be aware of your surroundings.
That's a big thing, honestly, your situational awareness, and pay attention to, be able to interpret what you're seeing.
I mean, we recently had a friend come over to visit us, and, you know, there was a situation where it's just like, man, I gotta be around this guy and just like look at him, like constantly, like make sure he's not doing anything stupid, because he can walk into the street not knowing. And me saying, okay, now you know how I feel, because it's like I have that going on every day, every moment. I mean, I grew up in Southern California.
Right.
There's gangs everywhere.
Everywhere.
You know, so it's just like, oh, there's a drug deal that just happened.
Yeah.
Oh, they're beating the shit out of somebody.
And
over
that
there.
brings me to another point, like living in Utah and living in Virginia and living in Hawaii, living in Florida, living in Louisiana, Texas. I've been all over the country. I've done a little bit in Guam. And the people in Utah, being based here in Utah, people in Utah don't realize that this is not how the rest of the world works.
No, it's its own little bubble.
Yeah, and when they are very ignorant and naive and cocky about their ignorance and naivety when they leave the state. And then they don't realize, I'm like, oh shit, that was a drug deal. Oh, you're making that up. Or, oh, hey, that's a prostitute. No, that is not.
Well, like even talking to some of the cops at one of the next town over, you know, I was talking to one of them, and he was just like, so, you know, what kind of childhood you grew up? Yeah, I grew up in Southern California, man. How was that?
Yeah.
It's just like, well, body language is kind of easy to see, you know, and you can tell, you can interpret things. It's just like, that guy just went to go shake hands, making air quotes, shake hands, and it's like, that guy was probably selling him some weed. And there was a little exchange in money with the classic stuff that you'll see in TV and movies and stuff. But then it's like other stuff, you know, even something so subtle as a whistle. In Southern California, a whistle is just based on the type of whistle, the pattern, everything is just, it'll
try to get the fuck out of there.
It'll signal something like, hey, there's this guy walking down the street. He's the wrong race and he's wearing the wrong colors.
Yeah. Or just like Baltimore, like I'm East Coast guy, and if you're in Baltimore and you're just like, hey, I got to pick somebody up from the airport, and you try to grab a sandwich or something, you see the wrong colors, you hear the wrong, it's not usually whistles there, it's usually like, hey, and you just hear the specific hey, and you know that hey is followed by something else, either a car screeching or gunshots or whatever.
Well, I mean, I also grew up like in Southern California. Where I spent most of my early life was a place called the Antelope Valley, Palmdale. Snoop Dogg even came out in a video and said, I would not want to go to Palmdale, Lancaster. When I grew up there, most of my life was Palmdale. And you learn that not to walk down any neighborhood that's named after a tree. Beach, elm, you know.
Yeah.
Ironically.
And the thing is a lot of people don't know that. And if you're like from Utah, you don't know these things.
And you're like, what?
In Virginia, and I want to say it's Portsmouth, you don't walk down a street that is a number. First Street, Second Street.
Well, that also goes to the same thing for Los Angeles, because you have like 18th Street Gang.
Yeah.
You go down 18th Street Gang.
I mean, shit, you could go down the 2nd Street and you're wearing blue. you blue shirt because you like whatever the Blue Jays or whatever, and you go down.
And we just walk in LA wearing a Dodger shirt.
Yeah, you're fucked. I remember back when I was a kid in Ohio, you couldn't have Raiders jackets. Silver and black, you couldn't have Raiders jackets at all. You were gonna get fucked.
Yeah.
You were gonna get mugged. You were gonna get stolen. I remember when I was in third grade, and I watched a kid, another third grader, get his shoes yanked by a fifth grader just because they were Nikes. And it's like, they don't have that here.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about memes. And we also have to look at the culture and time. It's been 25 years since Virginia. It's been, 30 years since Ohio. So it's one of these things where...
I mean, I remember, and I'm old enough to remember it too, okay? My dad had dropped me off with one of his uncles in L.A., East L.A., okay? And this was in the early 90s. So there was nobody to take care of me because I was a little kid. My mom was working, my dad was working. I didn't have any siblings, and nobody else to take care of me. So he dropped me off at his uncle's house. I called him my uncle. Well, I remember going there periodically, and next thing you know, I walk into the living room, and I see my uncle in a chair in front of the door with a shotgun. Lo and behold, that same day was when those LA riots happened.
Yeah, in the early 90s.
And I was just like, holy shit, finding that out. Huh. So what kept the all the people in South Central from going into East LA and stuff like that? It's like, well, believe it or not, it was a lot of the old school Mexican gangbangers.
Yeah.
The Pachucos is the right way to say it, or the other Mexican gang members. That's it. They just stood at the end of the bridge, like, bring it, fucker. So seeing my grandpa is like, growing up in Southern California, seeing all that stuff, being exposed to a lot of that, coming here, very vanilla.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's cool. Sometimes it's very cool. I like it. But goddamn, my mind's still moving a million miles.
Yeah, you do get the mindset of, like, especially like at traffic lights. I realize, like, you look around and you see the people in their cars and they're texting or whatever on their phones. You can't do that everywhere. Mm-hmm. You can't do that in Portsmouth. You can't do that in Cleveland. You can't do that in Youngstown, Ohio. It's like you're asking for trouble when you do certain of the common day things that your state, like being aware and understanding certain premises and movies aren't just fake. They're actually portraying what it's like in different areas.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Utah is very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very grounded in their way, and they think that's
how the world works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even recently going back to California for some family matters. I mean, I bring my guns, I should say, with me wherever I go. Whether I'm going to Salt Lake or if I'm going to Vegas. Don't care. Always have them with me. Well, I went with my family to visit my grandma, and full car, don't really want to have it in the front seat. Plus, cops out there are dicks. They can be, it's not cool. Driving on the freeway and being stuck in traffic, and then you see a car full of bald-headed Mexican guys.
Yeah.
Me growing up in that is just like, fuck.
Yeah.
My gun is in the trunk. Shit.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
And I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And it's that paranoia, that stigma that I have from being in situations and surroundings like that it's just like, okay, what do? I just took my seatbelt off, put the car in park because we're already in traffic. Okay. Got my hand on the trunk, to open the trunk. So, okay, we'll be ready to rock relatively quick. And usually tend to assess the situation properly. But it's one of those things that's a paranoid feeling.
And well, I mean, you got to define paranoia as there's no evidence of anything going on. So when you're paranoid, there's no evidence of anything that could ever happen. Yeah. But when you actually have life experience of something,
I've been held at gunpoint many times growing up in Southern California.
Yeah.
Once by a cop, and I was in the back seat and the individual will not be named at all, or even be considered a friend. He was driving recklessly in a 5.0 Mustang down a highway, and they found cocaine in his pocket.
That'll get you every time.
Yeah. So
there's your problem.
Yeah. So immediately
going fast.
Yeah. No shit. So immediately it's like finding that out, cut ties.
Yeah.
You're always gonna have somebody in your life that's like, hey, you wanna try something fun?
Yeah.
Like, no.
But I also think that takes, with all of that we're talking about, it takes you to step up to the plate of just in your own body and your own mind to realize there are certain situations, there are certain things you need to hold boundaries for. Yeah. There are certain things where it's like, oh, fuck. Okay, I guess I'm not going to be friends with that guy. It's a certain things, and, friendships may be broken, ties may be cut, family members may be lost, but there's certain things that you got to, really, you just got to really figure it out for yourself. What is best for you?
In a way, it also goes back to what you're saying. Being in Utah, the Utah residents are very deep rooted in what they believe in. Yeah, and to a point, you gotta adapt to that mentality. Yeah,
and this kind of adds a little bit to maybe a different, maybe a topic on the same, talking about family and people who are doing wrong shit. When we talk about preparedness and stuff, and you're like, hey, you should probably have this, this, and this in your house, food, tampons, paper towels, guns, ammo.
Essentials and things.
Yeah, some food or whatever. And then you get to the gun part, and the family member just shuts you off. They're like, no. And then they add in the word, well, when that happens, I'll just come to your house. I kind of have I don't know where to go with this, because I'm very like, hey, the more the merrier,
Yeah, but
if you come to my house with nothing, what the hell am I supposed to do with you?
Yeah, and that's another thing for we can go into more details about that. You can have someone that says, and I've had people tell me the same thing. You're the only gun guy I know.
So when stuff happens,
so I'm supposed to immediately at the drop of a hat come and help you? No. Get fucked. I got. What have you given me?
Yeah.
What have you?
If you show up at my house and you got a pallet full of Chef Boyardee, fuck it,
come on in.
Good, that's fine.
But
don't show up at. This goes out to everybody. Don't expect somebody else to be for your safety.
No.
If you're dead weight, then you're going to be dead weight, and you're not going to be a part of that group for much longer.
Yeah.
If you come to that house with a revolver and a box of Fruity Pebbles, you're worthless. You know what I mean? You are super worthless. Now, this does not account for the people.
It's also not discouraging.
That are in banned states. This is for the people that are, your Utahs, Texas, Idahos. These are for the states that are normal, that have freedoms and guns and everything.
Yeah.
If you are willingly denying knowledge just for some sort of stupid political view or fear.
I don't like guns because they're scary.
Yeah. I wrote a quote down just a little bit ago.
Fucking look through it.
Let me see if I can find it real quick. But I wrote a quote down because I was watching movies, and this can go into another subject. Fear leads to ignorance. Ignorance will lead you into danger. Simple knowledge can save you and your family's knowledge. So what I mean by that is, I was watching this movie on this will go into another topic for another day, but I'm going to just touch base on this. I like movies that are end of the world movies because I get to be a critic, because I get to be a critic on how shitty the development is on how you are. Yeah. So there's Boyfriend. I'll just do a quick synopsis. The movie is called How It Ends, and it's on Netflix. It's got this young white dude, and I can't remember the daughter's name, but it's she's like I can't remember what she's in, but she's pretty famous. She's amazing, she's beautiful. And then the dad, I think, is who's the lazy-eyed actor?
Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, Forrest Whitaker.
He's a good actor.
So he's in it. He's the father, and his daughter is some sort of businesswoman, and she's out of town. The boyfriend puts her on the plane, and the boyfriend's white, so there's kind of this little racial divide or whatever. Well, the boyfriend, the whole world collapses. Something happens. I can't remember if it was a chemical or whatever. Something happens. Everything goes out. Well, the dad has one gun, and they're leaving the city. Him, the dad, and the boyfriend are leaving the city to go get the daughter, who's like Pacific Northwest or whatever. And they don't know where she's at. They've got very minimal communications, very everything.
Yeah, so it's like a legit, like, communications are knocked down.
Right.
And everything's
And they're driving through, like, Wyoming. I think they're Chicago guys. You know, they're coming out of Chicago, and apparently everybody in Chicago, nobody has guns.
Yeah, I find that very, very,
so the dad's got,
very misleading.
I think the dad has a SIG. If I'm not mistaken, it's a 320, but it could be like a 229 or something. And those are easy. Those easy guns, common. Everybody should know how to operate these guns. The difference is 229, 226 are single action, double action for the most part, and I do believe they're double stack guns. But the 320 is a semi-automatic 9mm basic. It's what the military has now. The problem that I have with the movie is there's a scene where they're getting chased, and he asks, how do I load it? And it drives me nuts because it's like, there are people that are like this. It's a perfect, it pissed me off that they would put this in the movie. However, it's an accurate thing. How do I load this?
Yeah.
I mean, there's Instagram videos for days on, oh, you didn't put the magazine in.
Oh yeah, like, you know, all the gun experts of the internet, you know, it's just like, your fucking iron sights are backwards, you idiot. A good movie that I liked, and it's all its fucked up glory, is the one that was made off the book by Cormac McCarthy, The Road.
Oh, I have that one down.
Yeah, that one is fucked.
And I like the movie. I like the movie because it kind of hints on a couple of different topics.
Yeah.
It touches on mental health. It touches on
a little bit
who's your partner and do you know how, like, who your partner is. That movie was played so well by Charlize Theron and Viggo Mortensen.
Oh, man.
They were great. I feel bad for the movie because it's an emotional movie, and it's one of those movies where when you watch it,
the whole movie's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's just
and there's like certain parts. I don't know why he wants to get to the ocean, but it's like, I got to get to the coast, and he could have stayed in that one bunker.
So, and then like another example is like I recently rewatched the Book of Eli.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's another,
I didn't like that one.
It's a little Christy.
Not
but
that
I only found that part at the end when I first saw it many years ago. You know, but
I didn't like it just for that. Just not because it's Christy. I didn't like it because the trailer made it to be Mad Max with badass Denzel Washington as an equalizer before the equalizer.
Yeah.
You know, like
another thing I didn't like about that movie is just like, okay, how long ago was the end of the world?
Yeah.
They say, you know, and it was just like, oh, that was like 20 summers ago or whatever. But at this point, do you have summer? There's no summer.
Yeah.
Everything's been nuked to shit. Another thing is just gasoline, and I hate this in post-apocalyptic movies. Gasoline is only good for what, 6 months?
I've been told 28 days, but okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. But
I'll tell you this from my experience. I've had a lawnmower, and I never ever, as a bad man card stripped thing, I never drained the gas out of my lawnmower. I never put stable in it, and every year it fucking starts.
Yeah.
3 to 6 months.
Okay, so 6 months.
Is that like in a container or?
Regular gasoline has a shelf life of 3 to 6 months.
Wow,
oh yeah,
that's good to know.
And that was Jude.
Yeah,
Jude is our Jamie.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I didn't know that. That's good to know. I guess if you had a couple of 10-gallon cans in your garage and just every 6 months just pour them.
Yeah, but then Diesel's a year.
Oh,
that's
shit.
good to know.
All that goes get that Bronco.
Get that Bronco. Get that 2,500 Cummins.
Yeah,
and pay the
amount. I would get an 80s. Get an 80s diesel.
Oh yeah. Well,
get a 55-gallon drum.
But then I mean, like I said, it goes back to that. Like you got these movies where it's like the end of the world. Mm-hmm. The end of the world happened. Fallout. You know, Fallout 4, whatever video game nerd stuff. These people have been driving cars for 30 years after nuclear fallout,
And somebody was telling me about that. Oh, you just got to get an oil refinery and then you have your gas forever. And it's like, you don't know how many jobs that there are
that require
in that whole process. And then those parts, if those valves and hand wheels and shit break, how are you going to fix that? I mean, just the PME, the maintenance that has to be done on the entire unit is just.
I mean, my like another example for that is just people that don't understand it. When people find out I'm a machinist, they're like, "Oh, can you make this?" Well, yeah, it's gonna take some time. Well, can't you just do it faster and cheaper?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want me to cut 17.4 stainless and have the part to you when? And what do you want me to do with it? Well, I need it by tonight. Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
That's not.
You need the tooling. You need special carbide cutters if you want to get it done fast and get it looking nice, things like that.
But there's like setup times.
There's setup times. There's all
material.
that stuff. They don't get it, and they're like, "Well, maybe I could do it." Okay, can you calculate the feeds and speeds for cutting 17.4 stainless?
Yeah.
What's that? Can you calculate it? I don't even know what it is. So why do you think you're gonna be able to do it faster and better than me? I have experience.
And that's gonna be the guy in his garage on a vise with a Dremel.
But that goes back to what you're saying about all you just need is an oil refinery. Okay, can you explain to me the process of how you refine the oil and turn it into gasoline and diesel?
Yeah. I worked on reactors, and I know a little bit, enough to get me in trouble. But
that's how it starts. Like it's enough to get you in trouble.
Yeah, and then you say that to somebody who thinks they're like, oh man, just like when you work with guns, like when you have like say an MP5, the guy who doesn't have an MP5 thinks the MP5. No, you're fine. The MP5. The guy who has the MP5,
that smile.
he'll
smile.
Just clear it, buddy. And then when you have certain things that another person doesn't have, it's just one of those things where people are always just like in shock or awe until you have it, and then it's that shock and awe diminishes a lot. Like, people with a Dodge Viper, they're going to be like, oh my God, it's a Dodge Viper. And then you get a Dodge Viper and they're like, oh, that's cool. I got a Dodge Viper. But then, everything below the Dodge Viper is minuscule. It's nothing. And that's a lot of how gun stores and stuff work nowadays is, and when you get to that next level of, I got a Barrett, everything below a Barrett looks like garbage. It looks like a 22.
I don't know.